Coach Jason Capson here. Hi folks, Jason Capson, or we could say Coach Jason Capson for this video. This video pays homage to my bodybuilding past. Bodybuilding has been a big part of my life for many years. And the Mr. Olympia is this week. So the Mr. Olympia contest, for those who don't know, is the largest, it's the biggest prize in bodybuilding. It's the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. It's the Stanley Cup of bodybuilding. It's the biggest title you can win in bodybuilding. Past champions like Arnold Schwarzenegger, a lot of you will know that name. The King, Ronnie Coleman. There's been a lot of really amazing champions over the years in the Olympia competition. And over the years, there have been a number of bodybuilders that I feel truly epitomize what bodybuilding should be. I was a bodybuilder in the late 80s, early 90s, the 90s, I guess, well, the 80s and 90s, late 80s and all the 90s. I was a bodybuilder, and then I was a bodybuilding coach. I've been involved in the bodybuilding world for 30 years. I retired a couple of years ago as a coach, had a very successful run as a coach with my business partner, Ryan Reynolds. We had an incredible run as coaches for our team Sculpt, and then Team Chiseled. We had incredible athletes. This top 10 list of the most aesthetically pleasing, the most symmetrical bodies in bodybuilding history, in my opinion. I've been thinking about this for a while, and it's a lot of fun, again, especially considering the Olympias this week. And you may agree with this, you may not agree with this. In fact, I would encourage you to give me your list. Give me your list of your top 10 most aesthetically pleasing, most balanced, most symmetrical bodybuilders of all times. So without further ado, here is my list, the top 10 bodybuilders with the most aesthetically pleasing bodies in the history of bodybuilding. Number 10.
I'd give it a 10.
Serge Nubret. Serge Nubret was a bodybuilder back in the 70s and 80s, and his body was considered perfection at the time. From an aesthetically pleasing, from a symmetrical, from a balance standpoint, just such an incredible physique. He knew how to pose it properly. He knew he had basically a perfect, genetically perfect chest, great arms, great balance, great symmetry from head to toe. Just one of those bodies. When I think about symmetry, and again, I was obsessed with bodybuilding, and my obsession was always to have a symmetrically pleasing bodies. And these were some of the bodies that I really looked up to and aspired to try to build. That was sort of the goal back in the day. I mean, today, it's a little more difficult, because when you see these mass monsters and these bodybuilders of today, and even, you know, bodybuilders from the past, some of them you think, wow, like there's no way. It's impossible. There's just got to be a lot of things go right for you in your life, from starting with your genetics and on, to even think of coming close to that. You know, there's not very many people that are going to get out of bed and think they're going to be the next Dorian Yates, or think they're going to be the next Ronnie Coleman, or, you know, it's gotten so big. The next hottie. They're just gigantic human beings. But back in the day, there were bodybuilders, and I think that I was a bodybuilder during a time that was the best era for bodybuilding, in my opinion. The 90s. The 90s were, in my opinion, the best decade of bodybuilding ever. I don't think it'll ever be replicated. Now, men's classic physique, since the introduction of that division, there was hope. In my opinion, there was some hope when they brought that division out. But even now, even still today, when you look at the size, I mean, Chris Bumstead, he's like 240 some pounds on stage. Like that's a large, he weighs 260, 270 pounds in the off season. These are gigantic human beings. Some of the bodybuilders are well over 300 pounds in the off season. Some of them come close to weighing 300 pounds on stage. So again, for a normal person looking at that, for somebody new into bodybuilding, you're looking at that, you're thinking that's just not achievable. But when I was younger, in the 90s, there were bodybuilders that I looked up to that were perfection when it came to symmetry. And I thought, maybe if I took the right vitamins and ate the right foods and trained hard enough, maybe one day I could look something like that, close to that. No, when you're in the bodybuilding world, you realize just what it is and what it takes to even come close to that. It's actually incredible. There's a reason this sport is considered, it's a radical sport still. It's a hardcore sport. It is definitely, it's an incredible sport. And I tip my hat to anybody that does it at that level. I know what goes into that, even to not even get close to that level. But I know what goes into it, and it blows my mind still to this day. But Serge Nubret, number 10, look him up. He had a really very, very pleasing to the eye physique that some people looked at and thought, yeah, maybe one day if I do the right things and I train hard enough, I could maybe look like that. Genetically blessed for sure, incredible physique, but still somewhat attainable for some people. At least it appeared that way. Number 9. Shawn Rhoden. Shawn Rhoden he did win the Olympia one time. He won Mr. Olympia one time. And in my opinion, for a massive human being, a massive amount of muscle, he just still so beautifully put together from a symmetrical and just from a balance standpoint, gigantic. Just, again, awe-inspiring. They're like, never in a million years could a normal person ever look like that. Never in a million years could a top bodybuilder look like that. You have to be the best of the best of the best to even come close to that. And he was just genetically gifted from head to toe. A beautiful, beautiful physique. Sadly passed away recently. But what an incredible physique. He is number 9 on my list, all-time list of aesthetically pleasing bodybuilding physiques. Number 9, Shawn Rhoden. Number 8. Dexter Jackson, the Blade. Dexter Jackson. Just blows my mind when I think about how incredible this man looked from the moment he got on the scene. And he's been on the scene for a long time. He won Mr. Olympia at a very advanced age for bodybuilding. Still competing at a very, very, very high level in his late 40s. Just an incredibly gifted genetic freak, beautiful symmetry, beautiful bounce. When he came in on point, when he came in shredded, he was pretty close to unbeatable. Because, again, from head to toe, just perfection. I ranked him ahead of Shawn Rhoden just because of what he was doing, how he did it at such an advanced age, and how he was so consistently incredible. What an incredibly beautiful physique. But again, just genetically gifted, huge human being, shredded, always came in on point. The Blade, Dexter Jackson, all-time number 8. Number 7. Shawn Ray. There's a video of Shawn Ray in the gym taking off his shirt and kind of doing some posing stuff. Literally perfection. Every single body part was developed to perfection. Everything was balanced. It was just, again, when I look at symmetry and when I look at aesthetically pleasing bodies, when you look at it, it just looks like art. It looks like a Greek statue. It looks like it's just perfection. Every body part is perfectly developed. Every body part flows. There's nothing that's too big. I think Lee Haney had an incredible back, but I think his back was almost too big for his legs. There was sort of a mismatch there. Sean Ray, everything was balanced perfectly from head to toe. Everything matched. It was perfection. So I've got Sean Ray at number 7 of my all-time best bodies in bodybuilding from an aesthetics and a symmetry standpoint. Sean Ray, number 7. Number 6, maybe a little controversial, but I have number 6. I've got Chris Bumstead. Chris Bumstead, fellow Canadian, I think clearly, going to go down in history as the greatest classic physique champion of all time, going for his 5th Mr. Olympia title this week. And I think Chris Bumstead has what many people believe to be the greatest physique in the world today, arguably. I think, again, personally, that he's almost too big. Again, just from an aesthetics. Now, again, I say that when I have Sean Roden on my list at number 9. Chris Bumstead is, again, genetically, I think it's absolutely perfection. Everybody talks about his biceps. His biceps aren't quite where they should be. I think this year he's going to shock people. I think he's going to look better than he's ever looked this year. He is huge. He's gigantic, symmetrically. His waist, shoulder to waist, his back ratio is incredible. He's got insane legs. He's got great legs. I think he is the entire package. I think he's perfectly balanced. He's 6'1", he's tall, but it's a really, well, he's number 6 all time for me, all time list. Chris Bumstead. I just think from a perfection, aesthetics, and just pleasing to the eye, he almost has too much muscle for that, to put him any higher. Again, this is why, I look at guys like Sean Ray, guys like, Sean Roden. Sean Ray, Chris Bumstead outweighs him probably by over 40 pounds on stage. Like Chris Bumstead's a big dude. But again, I think he ranks in the top 10 for sure. He's number 6 on my list. Chris Bumstead, the current and reigning and defending classic physique champion, number 6 on my list. Number 5. I have Lee Labrada. I'm almost tempted to put Lee Labrada number 1 as far as aesthetically pleasing, genetically balanced, perfection and symmetry. I'm almost tempted to put him number 1. When you look at when he was at his best, I can't imagine a better physique, complete physique. Yes, he was a little shorter. Yes, he wasn't as big. And that's why he never won the Mr. Olympia, was because of the size. He just didn't have the size. And in bodybuilding, size does matter. We see that year over year over year. I am not a fan of just size over everything. I think, some of the most recent champions, I think they just have too much muscle. I don't think it's pleasing to the eye. I think, now, that is not to take away anything from what they do and how they get there and the work they put in and the dieting and the exercise, all the stuff that it takes to become a champion bodybuilder, not taking anything away from anybody. It's just from an aesthetically pleasing standpoint, pleasing to the eye. Lee Labrada solidly at number 5, could easily have been 4, 3, 2, and maybe not number 1, but definitely in the top 5, solidly. Could have easily been 4 or 3, in my opinion. But Lee Labrada, number 5, what an amazing physique. Number 4, old school Steve Reeves, the OG of symmetry and classic lines, and really, back in the day. That is who everybody looked up to. That is who everybody aspired to be. Everybody wanted to be Hercules. Everybody wanted to be that guy. Not the new Hercules, not the Rock. It's not the original Hercules. Steve Reeves. If you're a bodybuilder and you don't know who Steve Reeves is, shame on you. Steve Reeves is the OG. He is the guy that really started this madness and really started. He had the classic lines, the classic shoulder to waist ratio. He was perfectly balanced. Like, was he gigantic? No. Was he shredded? No, because he didn't have to be. But back in that time, he had a body that everybody on the planet wanted. Every man that wanted to build their bodies wanted his body, Steve Reeves' body. Now, again, when you look at it today in the world of bodybuilding, you probably look at it and go, ha, what? But back in the day, that's what started it all. And he really was the guy that everybody wanted to be. I looked up to him a little before my time, but I still knew who he was because everybody knew who he was. But Steve Reeves, from a classic lines, symmetry, aesthetically pleasing, he was the OG. Steve Reeves, he has my number 4 spot. Number 3. Yeah, this won't be a surprise if we're going to Frank Zane. Frank Zane is number 3 on my list. Again, a lot of bodybuilders over the years, that was the body that if you ask bodybuilders, if you ask older bodybuilders, men in their 50s, 60s, 70s, if you ask those bodybuilders who they wanted their bodies to look like, it was Frank Zane. Frank Zane was Mr. Olympia. I think he won 3 times, maybe twice, 2 or 3 times. But Frank Zane, again, just the classic, beautiful perfection, the lines, that's what he was known for. He was known for his perfect symmetry, his perfect balance, incredible bodybuilder. Really, again, even as he got older, those lines, he always had that shape, and he always had those lines and that symmetry. There's some bodybuilders today that still go to him for his posing help and for help with their competition prep. There's a lot of bodybuilders new today that could learn a lot from someone like Frank Zane. And just again, I wish it would pull back a little bit and maybe go more towards that kind of a look. Frank Zane, number 3 on my list. I don't think anybody would argue on the planet. If you're making any list in bodybuilding for symmetry, for aesthetics, for pleasing to the eye, and you don't have Frank Zane on that list or Steve Reeves on that list, you probably don't have a very good list. Just saying. Again, not a mass monster, but perfectly built, every head to toe, top to bottom, front to back, had it all. Just incredible. Frank Zane, number 3. Number 2. Now, this might be a little controversial to some of you. My wife actually had him number 1. Most people in the bodybuilding world know this name. Most people would, he changed it all. Never won the Mr. Olympia, sadly, but Flex Wheeler. Flex Wheeler, when he was at his best, even by today's standards, when he was at his best, there was no one better. I've never seen such round, beautiful, perfectly designed muscle bellies in all of my life. Just his waist to shoulder ratio. People talk about Phil Heath, and they talk about Phil Heath and his round muscle bellies. And Phil Heath, again, you can't argue Phil Heath, just Mr. Olympia multiple times. Incredible bodybuilder. But I would have Flex Wheeler over him any day, every day, with regards to just aesthetically pleasing, symmetrical, balanced bodies. Sadly, Flex Wheeler, again, it was just at a time where mass monsters were dominating. Dorian Yates, nobody could beat Dorian Yates at the time. Flex Wheeler, just utter perfection. When you look at that body, that is, now, again, huge, gigantic human being, just muscles for days, but the picture, this picture is art. It's just perfection. So I could have, again, gone either way. My wife had Flex Wheeler number 1. I would have no problem putting Flex Wheeler number 1 and who I have number 1, number 2. I would have no problem with that. In fact, I could really take the whole top 10 and switch them all around. Maybe the top 5, 6. I could put Chris Bumstead in the top 5 for sure, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But Flex Wheeler, he'd be on everyone's list. Just incredibly blessed with balance and symmetry and just utter perfection. But when we talk about perfection, when we talk about symmetry, when we talk about balance, when we talk about classic lines, muscle bellies, symmetry from head to toe, you cannot get any better than Bob Paris. Bob Paris never won the Mr. Olympia, but I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, Bob Paris probably had the most influence on me as a bodybuilder over anyone else in the bodybuilder world because of those classic lines, because of that incredible symmetry. There's never been, in my opinion, a bodybuilder that had the combination of size, looks, symmetry, balance, aesthetics, just the entire package, literally from toes to top of his head, had it all in perfect package. And again, there's people that I've seen some other top 10s, and some people have him. Most people have him in the top 3, without a shadow of doubt. Most people have him in the top 3. Most have him number 1 of all time, as do I. You could put Flex Wheeler, you could interchange them, but I still would give the edge to Bob Paris. And again, not that this matters, but when I look at Bob Paris's physique, and when I used to see when I was younger, I always looked at that body and I thought, that's something that's achievable. That's something that I could aspire to be. Maybe close, maybe not exactly that body, but it was something that I tried to get to. This is as close as I ever got. Not even close to the guys that I have on my top 10 list here. Not even close. But, my goal was to be like Bob Paris. I didn't have the genetics to do it. I certainly didn't have the mindset that you need to become a champion at that level, Mr. Olympia champion. I did aspire at one point to try to get my pro card. I wanted to be a professional bodybuilder at one point in my life, and then realized that it just, at 6 feet tall at the time, having to walk around at 275, 280 pounds, I was 270 at one point, and it was just, it was hard. It was difficult. So I tip my hat to all of the bodybuilders out there that continue to walk the walk and talk the talk and live the dream. I think everybody on this list deserves to be on this list. I think it would match most people's list if everybody, really did some research and checked on the most symmetrical and aesthetically pleasing bodies ever. I think these guys would all be on a list somewhere. So let me know what you think. I'm sure there's some controversial names on there, some different picks, but I think that list could probably go head to head with most of the list. But let me know, who did I miss? Lee Haney, I know people talk about. Muhammad Makaway. There's some names that I know just off the top of my head that probably could be on the list that just sort of missed the list because I had to pick 10. But you let me know who you think are the most aesthetically pleasing, symmetrical bodybuilders of all times. Let me know. Give me your feedback. Comment below. And I want to wish the best of luck to everybody competing this week at the Mr. Olympia. Chris Bumstead, no one's touching him. He's definitely winning his 5th title in classic physique. And of course, a fellow Canadian, I wish him the absolute best. But that's it. That's all for today. If you like this, subscribe below. There's more coming. That's it. That's all. Have a great Olympia week, everyone. Take care.